Chapter 1: The Crash and the Cat. If there was a sound that could summarize Brooke Tinsley's day, it would be the distinct clunk of a deal collapsing in real time. Not a dramatic explosion, more like a dignified thud of something expensive and fragile hitting the ground. She stood in her corner office, phone in hand, staring through the glass wall as her team pretended not to eavesdrop. "Hold on, Trevor," she said into the headset, her tone calm and level, the kind of calm that came right before someone set something on fire. "You're telling me the entire brand rollout is on hold because of a trademark claim that no one noticed until today?" A muffled, nervous voice replied something about oversight, legal review, pending documents, and an unfortunate mix-up involving a small cosmetics startup in Arizona. Brooke pinched the bridge of her nose. "So the name Glowmantic is not ours? Technically it's..." "Trevor," she interrupted sweetly. "If you say technically one more time, I'm going to send you a thesaurus and a resignation form. Pick one." A nervous laugh echoed through the line. She hung up before she said something less HR approved. Outside her glass walls, the city pulsed below in early evening hues, an ocean of headlights and ambition. Her team kept their heads down, typing furiously, pretending this wasn't the professional equivalent of watching the Titanic hit the iceberg. Brooke pressed her palms against the desk, breathing slowly. Her office was immaculate. Navy walls, clean lines, and not a single misplaced paperclip. Control. That was her brand. Control, efficiency, and a high tolerance for caffeine. But not even caffeine could fix this. Her phone buzzed. A message from her boss. "Martin, let's regroup tomorrow. Go home. We'll sort it out." She stared at the words. Go home. Like that was easy. The drive home took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of brake lights and self-reflection. She could feel the stress settling in her shoulders, that tight ache she usually ignored until her massage therapist scolded her for it. The city lights thinned as she neared her neighborhood. Her studio apartment was tucked above a flower shop, a one-room haven that smelled faintly of lavender and independence. She could afford more, a high-rise condo, maybe even a small townhouse, but she liked this place. It was hers. No one to impress, no one to disappoint. Just peace. Well, peace and fur. When she opened the door, a sleek black cat was sitting on the rug, tail curled neatly around his feet, golden eyes glowing in the half-light. "Nostradamus," she said flatly. "You were supposed to be inside the apartment when I left. How did you even?" He meowed, slow and deliberate, as if explaining she was late for his evening appointment. "You're impossible," Brooke sighed, kicking off her heels. "You know, some people have dogs that greet them with joy. I have a judgmental specter with whiskers." The cat blinked. Brooke threw her handbag onto the couch, then immediately winced. That couch had seen more of her exhaustion than her social life. "Today was one of those days, Nostra. You ever have one of those?" "No, of course you don't. You just lounge, eat, and lick my hair at 4:27 a.m. He leapt onto the counter, knocking over a pen. Deliberately. "Of course," she muttered. "Make yourself useful. Tell me what to do about a trademark disaster." The cat turned in a slow circle, then sat with his back to her, tail flicking once. "Silent treatment? Fine." Brooke opened the fridge, found a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, and poured herself a generous glass. "You know what? I'm not even mad. You're the only man in my life who hasn't asked for a favor." She sipped. The wine helped, a little. So did the routine. Cat, couch, quiet. Nostradamus hopped onto the back of her chair, his usual throne, and began grooming himself like royalty. Every so often he'd pause and glance at her, as if checking that she hadn't dissolved into tears or something equally inconvenient. Brooke stared at the city skyline through her window. She'd built this life, every inch of it, out of hard work, sleepless nights, and a relentless refusal to need anyone. Somewhere along the way, she'd stopped expecting anyone to need her. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mom. "Mom, how's my favorite executive superstar? Mom, don't forget to take breaks. You're not a robot. Also, the new Neighbors single. Just saying." Brooke snorted into her wine. "Oh, perfect, matchmaking by text message. Modern efficiency." Nostradamus yawned wide enough to show his fangs. "Don't you start with me," she told him. "I'm 31, not 90. I'm not desperate. I'm selective." The cat's tail swished like a metronome of disbelief. "Okay, fine, maybe I'm picky. But can you blame me? Half the men I meet think dating me is a networking opportunity." She mimicked in a deep voice. "You're so successful, Brooke. You'd be such an asset to my startup." She rolled her eyes. "Sure. I'll just add emotional investor to my resume." She drained her glass, then sighed. "And here I am, talking to a cat." Nostradamus made a small chirping sound and nudged her hand with his head. Brooke softened, scratching behind his ears. "You know, you're not so bad. Creepy, but loyal." For a few minutes, there was nothing but the soft hum of the city and the rhythmic purr of a creature who had, somehow, snuck into her life and refused to leave. It had been a long time since Brooke let herself sit in the quiet. Normally, her mind was a slideshow of deadlines and deliverables. But tonight, exhaustion wrapped around her like a blanket she couldn't shake off. She closed her eyes and leaned back in her chair. Nostradamus immediately repositioned himself on the backrest, his chin hovering above her head like a tiny furry halo. She smiled faintly. You always know when I need you, don't you? He licked her hair in response. Okay, that's love, but boundaries. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her boss. Martin, we're pausing everything until legal clears it. Take a few days off. Seriously, don't argue. Brooke stared at the message for a long time. Days off. The words felt foreign. Maybe she'd go visit her parents. It had been months. Too long, really. Her mom would fuss, her dad would grill burgers and tell bad jokes, and she'd sleep in her old room with posters from another life. She could already hear her mother. Brooke, you need to meet a nice man who isn't allergic to commitment. Maybe I will, she told Nostradamus. A vacation. Just us. You can terrorize some squirrels. The cat tilted his head. Fine, you'll observe some squirrels from a respectable distance. Later that night, Brooke sat cross-legged on the couch with her laptop open, trying to convince herself to care about the unread emails piling up. But her motivation had checked out an hour ago. She glanced at Nostradamus, now sprawled across her throw blanket like a dark blot of arrogance. Do you ever wonder if I'm doing this all wrong? She asked softly. The work, the walls, the pretending I'm fine? He blinked. Once. Slowly. I'll take that as a maybe. She closed the laptop. You know, if you could talk, I think you'd be insufferable. The cat meowed. It sounded suspiciously like agreement. Brooke laughed. An honest, unguarded laugh that startled even her. Felt good, strange but good. All right, prophet of doom, she said, standing. I'm taking a real vacation. No phone, no laptop, no people asking for free consulting advice. The cat followed her to the bedroom, tail held high like a black flag of approval. She slid under the covers, setting her alarm for 7 a.m. A pointless ritual since Nostradamus preferred his own schedule. Sure enough, just as her eyes began to close, he curled at her feet, warm and heavy. Brooke reached down to scratch his chin. Maybe tomorrow will be better. The cat purred. A deep, steady vibration that somehow sounded like we'll see. Morning came early. Very early. Precisely 4:27 a.m. Something rough and damp brushed against her ear. Brooke groaned. Not now. It's still dark, Nostra. Another lick. Persistent. Okay. I'm up. She sat up, hair disheveled, glaring at him. You know, one day I'm going to get an alarm clock that fights back. He stared at her with complete indifference. Brooke flopped back against her pillow, half laughing. You win. Breakfast for you, coffee for me. As she fed him and started the coffee maker, she realized her shoulders felt lighter. The world hadn't ended. The contract had fallen apart, sure, but maybe that was just the universe forcing her to pause. Maybe, just maybe, something better was waiting where she least expected it. Nostradamus sat by the window, watching the dawn creep in with the detached wisdom of an oracle. Brooke took a sip of coffee and whispered, What do you think, prophet? Should we go home for a bit? The cat's tail twitched once. I'll take that as a yes. Chapter 2, Temporary Escape. The next morning, Brooke Tinsley was a woman on a mission. A reluctant mission involving laundry, packing, and bribing her cat into a travel carrier. Okay, she said, standing in the middle of her studio with a duffel bag open on the couch. We're only going for a week. Maybe 10 days if my parents start guilt-feeding me pie. Nostradamus sat on the counter, tail flicking, watching her like a disappointed customs officer. Brooke dropped a pair of jeans into the bag. Don't give me that look. You'll survive. They have windows, squirrels, and an entire backyard to judge from. You'll love it. He didn't move. Fine, she muttered. You'll tolerate it. She checked her phone. A new email from Martin, short, mercifully to the point. Martin, take your time. We'll reach out when legal clears the name. Don't check your email too often. The last line made her snort. Don't check your email too often. Like telling a shark not to swim. But for once, she intended to try. She zipped the bag, looked around her tidy apartment, and sighed. Her little sanctuary. Clean, quiet, unbothered. The kind of place that made solitude look elegant instead of lonely. Then her gaze fell on the carrier sitting by the door. The cat sat in front of it, not inside it, as if daring her. Please don't make this difficult, she said. He blinked, slowly. Then, with a sigh that was almost human, he padded into the carrier and turned around once before lying down, an image of dramatic resignation. Brooke smiled. Thank you. I'll add extra treats for your cooperation. The drive south was smoother than usual. Traffic thinned as the city skyline faded behind her, replaced by open stretches of golden fields and sleepy towns that looked like time had politely forgotten them. Brooke rolled the window down and let the wind tug at her hair. The radio played old pop songs she hadn't heard since high school, back when life was simpler, when the biggest heartbreak was missing prom because her debate tournament ran long. In the passenger seat, Nostradamus lounged in his carrier, one paw poking through the grate. Every now and then, he'd meow pointedly. Yes, I know, Brooke said. You could drive better than me. Noted. The cat meowed again, louder. Also noted, You'd prefer a private jet. Let's revisit that when I become a billionaire. Her GPS chirped. In 2 miles, take the exit toward Maplewood. Home. Her parents lived on the edge of Maplewood, a charming mid-sized town with too many bakeries and not enough patience for city nonsense. The kind of place where everyone still waved when you drove past. The Tinsley house appeared just as it always had. Cream siding, green shutters, a porch swing her dad refused to replace even though it squeaked like a haunted violin. Brooke parked in the driveway, cut the engine, and took a breath. Immediately, the front door opened. Her mother emerged, apron still on, hands dusted with flour. Brooke, oh look at you, you're thinner. Are you eating? You work too much. Brooke smiled. Mom. Missed you too. Her mom wrapped her in a hug that could have doubled as a chiropractic adjustment. Your father's in the garden. He's been checking the tomatoes every day like they're about to run away. That sounds right. Her mom leaned to peek into the car. And there's the grandcat. Brooke groaned. Please don't call him that. Oh, but he's family. Her mom cooed, crouching to peer into the carrier. Hello, handsome. Welcome home. Nostradamus stared through the bars, unimpressed. His tail flicked once, like a silent warning. Brooke lifted the carrier. I think he's reserving judgment until he inspects the premises. Her mom clucked her tongue. You know, if you got married, I could be saying that to a grandson instead of a cat. And there it was 10 seconds in. Wow, Brooke said dryly. New record. You used to at least wait until dinner. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon, coffee, and nostalgia. Her parents' home hadn't changed much since she'd left for college. The same framed family photos lined the hall. The same floral curtains hung in the kitchen. Her dad appeared from the backyard, wiping his hands on a rag. Well, if it isn't my overachieving daughter, how's corporate America? Still chewing people up? Only the deserving ones, Brooke said, hugging him. That. He grinned. Good answer. You brought the little shadow, I see. Nostradamus had already been released and was inspecting the kitchen floor like an art critic examining a questionable exhibit. Careful, Brooke warned. He's judging your tile choices. Her dad laughed. He's got your eyes. That same look of mild disapproval. Runs in the family, Brooke said. By evening, she'd settled into her old room, a time capsule of the girl she used to be. The twin bed, the faded posters of Broadway shows and constellations, the desk still carved with her initials. It felt smaller somehow, but safer. She stretched out on the bed, scrolling absent-mindedly through her phone until a soft thump made her glance up. Nostradamus had jumped onto the windowsill, watching the fading light. Don't even think about it, she told him. You're not going hunting. This isn't your city territory. He ignored her, eyes fixed on a fluttering leaf. Brooke smiled faintly. You know, I could get used to this again. Slower mornings, quiet nights. Yeah. She yawned. It had been a long drive. Somewhere downstairs, her mom was humming while washing dishes, her dad's low voice mixing in as he told one of his long, rambling stories. The familiar sounds filled the air like a lullaby. Brooke's last thought before drifting to sleep was simple. Maybe this pause wasn't punishment. Maybe it was permission. The next morning, she woke to sunlight filtering through lace curtains, and the faint, unmistakable sound of a cat attempting to open a cabinet. Nostra, she groaned. You're supposed to be civilized. A crash followed by a soft meow suggested otherwise. Downstairs, her parents were already up. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Morning, sweetheart, her dad called as she shuffled in. Hope you like your eggs scrambled. We started without you. That's fine, Brooke said, yawning. Your cat grandchild broke into the pantry. Her mom poured her coffee. Oh, he's just exploring. It's good for him. Builds character. Right? Brooke said. Next he'll be auditing the spice rack. Her dad chuckled. He's got taste. I respect that. They ate together, chatting easily about work, neighbors, and small-town gossip. Her mom mentioned that Marcy, the girl who used to share lockers and secrets with Brooke, still lived in town. She's married now, her mom said, pouring more coffee. 2 kids. She runs that cute little boutique downtown. You should catch up. Brooke hesitated. She hadn't seen Marcy in years. They'd stayed in touch through social media, the occasional like or comment, but that was different from sitting face to face. Maybe I will, she said. Her mom's smile was too pleased. You should. It'll be good for you. That afternoon, Brooke leashed Nostradamus, for decorum, not control, and took him for a short walk around the block. The leash was mostly symbolic. He followed her out of obligation, pausing every few feet to glare at the universe. Don't look at me like that, she told him. You're the one who gets carsick. This is safer. He flicked his tail but trotted beside her anyway, the picture of reluctant loyalty. Brooke passed the park near her old elementary school, the one with the fountain and the creaky swings. Children's laughter echoed in the air, warm and familiar. She found herself smiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcy. Marcy, your mom told me you're in town. Want to meet up this weekend? Saturday morning at the park? Bring the famous cat grinning face with smiling eyes. Brooke laughed softly. Brooke, sure.
10 Uhr morgens.
Nostradamus insists on an audience. She slipped her phone back into her pocket and glanced down at the cat. Looks like you're going to make your small-town debut. He stopped walking and gave her a look that said finally, someone worthy of my time. Brooke chuckled. Oh, don't start thinking you're the star of this trip. But deep down, she suspected he might be. He always had a way of knowing more than she did, especially about what or who she needed next. That night, as she sat on the porch swing with a glass of sweet tea, her dad joined her. The air smelled of grass and honeysuckle, and crickets sang somewhere in the dark. So, he said, easing into the seat beside her. You think you'll stay a while? Maybe, Brooke said. I don't have to rush back until work calls. He nodded. Good. You've been running so long. I was starting to think you forgot how to stop. Brooke smiled faintly. Maybe I did. But I'm remembering. Her dad chuckled softly. That's my girl. From the living room window, she spotted a pair of golden eyes glinting in the dark. Nostradamus perched on the sill, watching her like a sentry. Brooke raised her glass toward him. Cheers, partner. Let's see what the universe has planned. The cat blinked once, slow and deliberate, as if to say, you'll find out soon enough. Chapter 3 Family and Fine Print. Brooke had forgotten what real quiet sounded like. Not the hum of city silence, the kind filled with sirens, distant traffic, and insomnia, but actual quiet. In Maplewood, mornings began with birds, not deadlines. She sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, hair pulled into a messy bun, watching sunlight spill across her parents' cheerful yellow walls. Nostradamus lay sprawled across the windowsill like a furry gargoyle, tail swaying lazily as he observed the backyard with deep philosophical interest. Her mom bustled around the kitchen in a flurry of domestic purpose. You look tired, sweetheart. Are you sleeping? Mostly, Brooke said. Nostradamus and I are on different schedules. He thinks 4 in the morning is brunch. Her mom clucked her tongue. He's keeping you sharp. Good training for children someday. Mom, Brooke groaned. We've been awake 10 minutes. Exactly. Prime time for planning grandchildren. Brooke took another long sip of coffee instead of answering. Her father walked in from the garden, carrying a basket of tomatoes like prize jewels. Your mother's been feeding the neighborhood again, he said. I caught her handing out muffins to the mailman. Her mom smiled brightly. He said he liked blueberries. He said that last week, her dad said, setting down the basket. Now we'll have to plant another bush. Or, Brooke said mildly, you could open a muffin shop. Call it Parental Pressure Cafe. First cup's free if you mention your daughter's love life. Her mom pointed a wooden spoon at her. You joke? But you'll thank us when you're not coming home to that cat for the next 30 years. Brooke arched an eyebrow. The cat's dependable. He's got better communication skills than most men. Her dad chuckled into his coffee. She's not wrong, honey. Her mom shot him a look. Don't encourage her. That evening, dinner turned into what could only be described as a cheerful ambush. Her mom had invited 2 neighbors by coincidence, set an extra place just in case, and mentioned 3 eligible bachelors before the salad hit the table. So, her mom said as she refilled everyone's glasses. Do you remember the old Harrison place on Willow Street? Brooke frowned. The one with the blue shutters? Yes. Well, it's been bought by a very nice man. Ethan Grant. Early 40s. Runs a little cafe downtown. You'd like him. Her fork paused midair. That's a suspiciously specific endorsement. Her mom smiled sweetly. What? I can't keep track of who's moved into town. You can, Brooke said. And you can also keep track of their marital status and tax bracket. Her dad coughed to hide a laugh. Her mom ignored them both. He's got a daughter, you know, about 4, maybe 5. Precious thing. Always laughing. You should take Nostradamus to the park sometime. They go there every weekend. Brooke tilted her head. You're suggesting I use my cat as bait for small children? Her mom beamed. I'm suggesting you get some fresh air. It's good for you. Her dad leaned over. Translation. She wants a photo of you talking to a man. Brooke snorted. Noted. After dinner, she helped her mom clear the dishes while Nostradamus supervised from the counter, tail twitching like a conductor's baton. You know, her mom said lightly as she rinsed plates, you don't have to rush back to the city so soon. There's nothing wrong with slowing down for a bit. Brooke hesitated. I know. It's just weird. Being idle. Her mom smiled gently. Rest isn't idleness, sweetheart. It's recharging. Even superheroes take days off. Yeah, Brooke said dryly. But superheroes don't have quarterly performance reviews. Her mom gave her a look that was both sympathetic and knowing. You've been running on empty for too long. You can't build a life if you're too tired to live it. Brooke sighed. You sound like a motivational podcast. Maybe I should start one, her mom said, smirking. First episode, Why My Daughter Needs a Man Who Likes Cats. Brooke laughed despite herself. You'd go viral. Later that night, she stepped outside to the porch swing with a glass of wine. The air was cool and still, filled with the chirp of crickets and the distant hum of sprinklers. Nostradamus followed, hopping onto the armrest like a tiny shadow. Don't look at me like that, Brooke said. You heard her. I'm apparently overdue for a husband. He blinked, unimpressed. Yeah, me too, she murmured, staring into the dark. But you know what? I think I just want someone who doesn't see me as a resume. Her cat's tail brushed her arm. Maybe that's asking too much. She stayed there until the stars came out, until the tension in her chest began to ease. Somewhere between exhaustion and the gentle creak of the swing, she decided that tomorrow, she'd go to the park with Marcy like she promised. It would be nice to talk to someone who remembered her before the power suits and deadlines. Saturday came with sunshine and the faint promise of nostalgia. Brooke dressed casually. Jeans, a loose white blouse and sunglasses. She might be on vacation, but she still couldn't bring herself to look unpolished. Nostradamus perched in his carrier, already sulking at the indignity of travel. Marcy was easy to spot at the park. Same golden hair, same infectious laugh, now accompanied by two energetic children playing tag around a stroller. When she saw Brooke, she squealed and ran forward. Brooke Tinsley, my God, you look amazing. Brooke laughed as they hugged. You look exactly the same, just multiplied. Marcy grinned. Mom life, baby. Coffee, chaos, and the occasional shower. You look like a magazine cover. What are you drinking these days, youth serum? Mostly espresso and ambition. They both laughed, sinking onto a park bench under the shade of an oak tree. Seriously? Marcy said, glancing at the sleek black cat lounging atop his carrier. This is him, right? Nostradamus. Brooke nodded. The one and only. Self-proclaimed ruler of my apartment and occasional alarm clock. Marcy leaned in, whispering, he's gorgeous. And a little terrifying. That's his brand, Brooke said. Mysterious with a touch of menace. They chatted easily, swapping stories about careers, high school memories, and old crushes that seemed hilariously irrelevant now. Marcy's life was loud, messy, and full. Brooke's was sleek, quiet, and controlled. For the first time, Brooke wondered if one of them had gotten it wrong. You look happy, she said honestly. I am, Marcy said. Tired but happy. You? Brooke hesitated, swirling her iced coffee. Successful, she said after a pause. Then softer, but maybe not happy. Marcy gave her a knowing look. You always wanted both. Maybe you still can. Brooke smiled faintly. Maybe. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Marcy's kids chase each other near the sandbox. And that's when Nostradamus stood up. Brooke noticed it immediately, the subtle stretch, the deliberate hop down from his carrier. Oh, she said. He's got that look. Marcy followed her gaze. What look? The I'm about to do something I shouldn't look. The cat trotted purposefully across the grass, tail high, ignoring Brooke's quiet hiss of, Nostra, no. He didn't stop until he reached a picnic blanket a few yards away, where a man sat eating sandwiches with a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4. The girl's laughter carried through the air as Nostradamus walked right up to her, sniffed her shoe, and then, without hesitation, curled up in her lap. Oh my God, Marcy whispered. Did your cat just adopt a child? Brooke stared, frozen. Apparently, the man looked up, startled, then amused. He had dark hair, a short beard, and kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. Well, he said, his voice carrying across the grass. Seems like someone's made himself comfortable. Brooke stood, mortified. I am so sorry. He doesn't usually. Well, he does whatever he wants, but still. The man laughed, warm and easy. No harm done. She loves cats. He gestured toward the little girl, who was currently petting Nostradamus like she just discovered heaven. The girl looked up at Brooke and grinned. He's soft. What's his name? Nostradamus, Brooke said, stepping closer. The girl giggled. That's silly. Brooke smiled. Tell me about it. The man extended a hand. Ethan Grant. Brooke Tinsley, she said, shaking it. His hand was warm, firm. Nice to meet you, Brooke. And thank you for letting your cat improve our picnic. Brooke smirked. Oh, he doesn't take requests. He's more of a freelance socializer. Ethan chuckled. Sounds familiar. Marcy called from the bench, grinning. Want me to grab your camera? Brooke? This is gold. Brooke shot her a look that could curdle milk. Don't you dare. But Ethan was still smiling, and something in his expression, something patient, amused, and utterly at ease, disarmed her completely. Maybe her mom wasn't entirely wrong about fresh air. Later, as she drove home, Nostradamus dozed contentedly in his carrier, purring like he'd just completed a sacred mission. Brooke glanced at him and muttered, You planned that, didn't you? The cat didn't answer, of course, but his tail gave one lazy flick. Brooke smiled, shaking her head. Fine, Purrfectly. I'll bite. Let's see where this goes. Chapter 4 Saturday in the park, the picnic incident. If Brooke Tinsley had known that bringing her cat to the park would become the most emotionally disarming afternoon of her adult life, she might have at least brushed her hair differently. Not that it mattered. Nostradamus clearly had other plans. After his bold infiltration of a stranger's picnic, there was no reclaiming dignity. Brooke found herself standing on the soft green grass, trying to figure out how to retrieve her cat without looking like a lunatic. Ethan Grant. Yes, that Ethan, the very one her mother had so casually mentioned, was sitting cross-legged on a plaid blanket with a paper lunch spread between him and a little girl who was still giggling as she stroked Nostradamus's fur. The man had a smile that was warm. That was the only word for it. Not polished, not performative, just warm. The kind that melted your guard before you realized it. She swallowed. I swear he's not usually this social. Ethan looked up at her, the corners of his mouth twitching. You mean, breaking and entering isn't his usual thing? Brooke sighed. Only on weekends. He laughed. A low, rich sound that did alarming things to her pulse. Well, he's welcome anytime. Lily hasn't stopped smiling since he showed up. The little girl, Lily, looked up with wide hazel eyes and announced, "He likes me best." Nostradamus purred in agreement. Brooke blinked. "You're probably right." Lily gasped. "You understood him?" "Fluently," Brooke said solemnly. "He mostly complains about portion sizes and my taste in shoes." Ethan grinned. "That sounds about right. Cats are born critics." Brooke smiled back, feeling her nerves untangle a little. "You'd think living with one for years would make me immune to judgmental stares. But no, he's perfected them." "Ah," Ethan said, eyes dancing. "So he's a cat with standards. High ones," Brooke said. "He's the only roommate I've ever had who pays rent in attitude." Lily giggled so hard she toppled sideways, and Nostradamus, remarkably, didn't move. He simply blinked and allowed the small human to wrap her arms gently around him. Brooke felt her heart squeeze in a way she didn't expect. Ethan noticed. "He's usually good with kids." "He's usually good with no one," Brooke said honestly. "He's allergic to affection." "You must be some kind of cat whisperer." Lily puffed out her chest. "I told him I'd be his friend." Ethan chuckled. "Well, there you go. She doesn't take no for an answer. Must run in the family." Brooke arched an eyebrow. "Oh, you're stubborn too." "I prefer persistent." That's what stubborn people say when they want to sound charming." "Does it work?" "Maybe," she said, fighting a smile. They fell into easy conversation. One of those unplanned exchanges that felt like the universe nudging two people towards something. Ethan worked as the owner and manager of a small cafe in town, the Copper Spoon. "It's newish," he said. "We opened about a year ago. I wanted a place where people could slow down, actually talk to each other." Brooke tilted her head. "And eat sandwiches in peace until strange cats invade their lunch?" He laughed again. "Exactly. It adds character." "And Lily?" Brooke asked, glancing at the little girl, now braiding a daisy chain around Nostradamus's tail. "My daughter," he said simply, pride warming his tone. "She's 4 3/4, but you have to include the quarters or she'll sue for slander." Lily piped up, "Almost 5. Brooke grinned. "Well, happy almost birthday." "Thank you," Lily said brightly. "You can come to my party if you want. And Mr. Ghost too." Brooke blinked. "Mr. Ghost?" Lily pointed at Nostradamus. "He looks like a ghost but fuzzy." Ethan smirked. "That's actually pretty accurate." Brooke put a hand to her chest in mock offense. "You're renaming my cat?" "He seems fine with it," Ethan said. Brooke glanced at Nostradamus, who was purring like he owned the park. Traitor. They stayed like that longer than she expected. Talking, laughing, letting the hours slide by. It was so easy, so normal. She wasn't Brooke the executive, the strategist, the perpetual fixer. She was just Brooke, sitting on the grass, barefoot now, laughing with a man who didn't seem to want anything from her except her company. Lily shared her cookies. Nostradamus accepted crumbs like a benevolent emperor. At one point, Ethan offered her a bottle of water, brushing her fingers as he handed it over. The spark that zipped up her arm startled her. She caught his gaze and saw a flicker of something. Interest, curiosity, recognition maybe. She looked away first. She always did. "So," she said, searching for neutral ground. "My mom may have mentioned you." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh really? Should I be flattered or terrified?" "Both," Brooke said. "She described you as a nice man with a good work ethic and a cafe that smells like cinnamon rolls." Ethan laughed. "That sounds suspiciously like matchmaking." "Oh, it was," Brooke said deadpan. "She's subtle like a marching band." "Well," he said, "I suppose I should thank her. Otherwise I might never have met Mr. Ghost and his charming owner." Brooke tilted her head. "Charming? Is that your professional assessment?" "Personal one," he said softly. That earned him a blink and a faint flush of color across Brooke's cheeks. She looked down, pretending to adjust the cat's leash. "Well, flattery gets you, I don't know, a mildly approving cat." Ethan smiled. "Good. I like earning my points the hard way." Eventually, the sun dipped lower, turning the park gold. Marcy texted that she had to leave. Her kids were melting down, and Brooke realized she'd been sitting with Ethan and Lily for over 2 hours. She stood, brushing grass from her jeans. "Well, I should probably head back before my mom sends a search party." Lily pouted. "Can Mr. Ghost come back tomorrow?" Brooke smiled. "If he's awake before noon, maybe." Ethan rose too, offering her a hand. "It was nice meeting you, Brooke Tinsley." "You too, Ethan Grant." They stood there a beat too long, neither quite letting go. Then Lily tugged his sleeve. Daddy, can we get a cat? Brooke laughed. Careful. That's a dangerous question. They don't ask to live with you. They just appear and never leave. Ethan glanced at her, amused. Sounds familiar. Because of kids? She asked. He shook his head, smiling gently. Because of some people, too. Her heart did that dangerous flutter again. Back at her parents' house, Nostradamus strutted out of his carrier like a hero returning from battle. Brooke dropped onto the couch, still smiling. Her mom peeked in from the kitchen. Oh, good. You met Ethan. Brooke narrowed her eyes. You knew that was his picnic spot, didn't you? Her mom feigned innocence. I might have mentioned you'd be at the park. And conveniently mentioned it to him, too? Her mom smiled sweetly. He's a nice man, with a daughter who adores cats. What a coincidence. Brooke groaned into her hands. You're impossible. Her mom beamed. You're welcome. That night, Brooke lay awake in her old bed, staring at the faint moonlight on the ceiling. Nostradamus curled against her feet, warm and smug. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ethan. Hey. Just wanted to say it was nice meeting you today. Thanks for letting your cat steal our lunch. Brooke. He has a history of criminal activity. Glad he picked a kind victim. Ethan. Anytime. Lily's still talking about Mr. Ghost. She thinks he's magic. Brooke. He thinks so too. Ethan. Maybe we could all grab coffee sometime. Cat optional. Brooke smiled at the screen for a long moment before typing back. Brooke. Only if there's cinnamon rolls. I hear your cafe has a reputation. Ethan. Deal. She set the phone down, heart oddly light. Nostradamus lifted his head, blinking sleepily. Yes, she whispered to him. I know what you're thinking. He yawned. And no, it's not a date. It's just coffee. A slow tail flick. Okay, she admitted softly, smiling into the dark. Maybe a little bit of a date. The next morning, sunlight poured through the curtains, and Brooke woke to find Nostradamus already sitting by the window, tail twitching. Thinking about yesterday? She asked. He turned his head slightly, golden eyes bright in the morning light. Yeah, she said, stretching. Me too. Chapter 5, The Second Encounter at the Copper Spoon Cafe. The Copper Spoon Cafe was one of those places that looked like it had been designed by someone who actually understood comfort. All amber light, mismatched mugs, and faint jazz playing from a speaker that occasionally crackled, as if to remind everyone that perfection was overrated. Brooke stood outside, smoothing her blouse and trying not to feel ridiculous for being nervous over coffee. It's not a date, she murmured under her breath. It's caffeine with conversation. Nostradamus, sitting imperiously in his travel carrier at her feet, blinked as if to say, keep lying to yourself, human. Don't start, she warned him, pushing open the door. A bell chimed overhead, and the smell of espresso and cinnamon wrapped around her like a hug. Ethan was behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, moving with an easy rhythm that made even the simplest act of pouring coffee look graceful. When he noticed her, his smile widened, genuine and bright. You came, he said. Brooke lifted the carrier. Against my better judgment, yes. Judgment's overrated, he said. Come on, I saved you the best table. He led her to a small corner booth near the window, where sunlight poured through lace curtains and a vase of fresh daisies sat between two steaming mugs. Brooke raised an eyebrow. This looks suspiciously like a setup. Ethan grinned. Maybe I'm just good at hospitality. She said, sliding into the booth. So, what's the catch? No catch, he said, sitting opposite her. Just coffee, good company, and the chance to apologize for my daughter renaming your cat. Brooke smirked. You're forgiven. Mr. Ghost has a certain menace to it. He seems pleased. As if on cue, Nostradamus emitted a low rumbling purr from his carrier. Ethan chuckled. He approves of the cafe? He approves of anywhere that smells like pastries. That makes two of us, he said, sliding a plate toward her. Cinnamon rolls, the good kind. You can't bribe me with work talk, but you can bribe me with food. Brooke blinked. You remembered. He shrugged, casual but clearly pleased. I listen. That, more than the cinnamon rolls, made her stomach do a little flip. Most men she met in the city listened just long enough to talk about themselves afterward. Ethan's quiet attention was disarming. She took a bite. It was warm, soft, and perfectly sweet. Okay, she said, pointing a fork at him. If this was a bribe, it worked. He grinned. I'll take that as a compliment. They talked easily about work, about Maplewood, about the strange social experiment of small towns where everyone somehow knew everyone else's cousin. So, Ethan said between sips, you're in marketing? Brand strategy, Brooke corrected, which is marketing, but with more meetings and existential dread. He laughed. Sounds intense. It's rewarding, she said, but sometimes I feel like I'm spinning plates. My job's great, my team's fantastic, but it's constant. Always pushing, always proving. Ethan leaned back, studying her with that calm, unreadable expression of his. You sound like someone who's been carrying too much for too long. She raised an eyebrow. Are you auditioning for therapist or barista of the year? Just an observation, he said lightly. Brooke hesitated, then smiled faintly. You're not wrong. I know the feeling, he said quietly. Running a small business isn't exactly stress-free. Between suppliers, payroll, and making sure the espresso machine doesn't develop a personality disorder, it's a full-time relationship. Brooke tilted her head. So, you're saying your commitment issues are with appliances? Exactly, he said, eyes twinkling. Less heartbreak, more steam pressure. She laughed, relaxing again. I can respect that. The door chimed again, and a familiar giggle rang through the cafe. Daddy! Lily came bounding in, a blur of pigtails and pink sneakers, trailed by a young babysitter trying to keep up. Hi, sweetheart, Ethan said, crouching as Lily threw herself into his arms. Brooke smiled at the scene, something warm and unguarded stirring in her chest. When Lily spotted Brooke, her face lit up. Miss Brooke, you came. Brooke waved. I did. And guess who else? She lifted the carrier, and Lily squealed. Mr. Ghost. Nostradamus blinked at her, then, shockingly, let himself be lifted out and cradled like royalty. Ethan blinked. He's letting her hold him? Brooke stared, half in disbelief. He doesn't let me hold him. Lily beamed. See? He likes me best. Brooke laughed. You might be right about that. Ethan smiled, eyes softening. She doesn't take to strangers easily. You and your cat might be the exception. Must be my winning personality, Brooke said dryly. Or the cinnamon rolls, he said. Definitely the cinnamon rolls. The babysitter took a seat at a nearby table, while Lily set about feeding Nostradamus invisible cat cupcakes. Brooke watched Ethan watching his daughter. Gentle, amused, proud. The look in his eyes wasn't just love. It was something steady and protective, something that made her throat tighten. You're good with her, Brooke said softly. She's the easy part, he said. The hard part was figuring out how to be both parents at once. Brooke hesitated. Her mom? He nodded, his tone even but not cold. Passed away 3 years ago. Car accident. Oh, she said quietly. Ethan, I'm so sorry. He smiled faintly, not out of dismissal but gratitude. Thanks, it's been a journey. Lily's the reason I keep going. She's everything. Brooke's chest ached. She's lucky to have you. He looked at her then, really looked, and for a moment, something passed between them. Understanding, respect, the silent recognition of two people who'd been carrying too much weight for too long, and who maybe, just maybe, didn't have to anymore. Lily returned, plopping Nostradamus onto the seat beside Brooke. He likes it here. Brooke smiled. You have good taste, Mr. Ghost. Ethan chuckled. He's our new mascot. You say that like you're joking, she said. I'm not. I'm serious. He can attract customers. Who wouldn't want coffee served by a psychic cat? Careful, Brooke said. He'll demand a salary. Ethan smirked. You drive a hard bargain, Miss Tinsley. I negotiate for a living, she said, matching his grin. They were still smiling when Lily asked, in the kind of innocent voice that could derail a freight train, Daddy, are you going to marry Miss Brooke? Brooke nearly choked on her coffee. Excuse me? Ethan coughed, trying, and failing, not to laugh. Lily, that's not how this works. Why not? Lily said, hands on hips. You like her. She's pretty. And Mr. Ghost likes me. Brooke pressed a hand over her face, half laughing, half mortified. I think we might be skipping a few steps, sweetheart. Ethan shot her a helpless look that made her laugh harder. Kids, he muttered. Honest little matchmakers, Brooke said. Lily folded her arms, unconvinced. Fine. But you should at least have another picnic. Brooke smiled. We'll see. By the time Brooke left the cafe that afternoon, the sky was soft and overcast, the kind of gray that made the world feel quieter. Ethan walked her to her car. Nostradamus was nestled in his carrier again, looking smug and drowsy. Thank you for coming, Ethan said. It was really nice to see you again. Thanks for the coffee, and the cinnamon rolls, and the minor heart attack courtesy of your daughter. He laughed. She's persistent. I have no idea where she gets it. Brooke tilted her head. Oh, I think you do. He grinned. Fair point. For a beat, neither of them moved. The air felt heavy with something unspoken. Then Ethan said quietly, I'd like to see you again, Brooke. No matchmaking moms, no accidents of geography. Just us. Her pulse jumped. Are you asking me out? Depends, he said. Will your cat approve? She smiled. He's got high standards. Then I'll have to earn it. Brooke laughed softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Okay, Ethan Grant. We'll see. That night, back in her childhood bedroom, Brooke replayed the afternoon in her head. The warmth of the cafe, the easy laughter, the way Ethan looked at her like she wasn't an accessory to his ambitions but someone worth knowing just as she was. It was disorienting and wonderful. Nostradamus, sprawled across her pillow, lifted his head and blinked at her. Don't give me that look, she said. We're just friends. A long, skeptical stare. Okay, fine. Potential friends. With cinnamon rolls. A yawn. Stop judging me. The cat purred once, decisively, and went back to sleep. Brooke stared at the ceiling, smiling despite herself. Yeah, she whispered. I like him too. Chapter 6, Small Town Gossip and Subtle Chemistry. If there was one universal truth about Maplewood, it was this: nothing stayed secret longer than 5 minutes and a cup of coffee. By Monday morning, every regular at the Copper Spoon had apparently developed an advanced degree in rumor circulation. Did you hear about Ethan Grant? Whispered Mrs. Danvers to her friend at the counter. He had coffee with that Tinsley girl. You know, the fancy one from the city. Brooke Tinsley? The friend gasped, as though Ethan had been spotted with a movie star. I heard she brought her cat. Of course she did, Mrs. Danvers said, nodding sagely. All the best women travel with a familiar. Ethan had learned long ago that trying to control Maplewood gossip was like trying to mop up a waterfall. By 9 a.m., half his customers were dropping subtle comments about cinnamon rolls, destiny, and wedding venues. By noon, he gave up pretending he didn't find it hilarious. When Brooke walked in at 12:17, looking sharp in her slate gray blazer and jeans, the low hum of chatter didn't exactly stop, but it definitely shifted. Heads turned. Coffee spoons paused mid-stir. She noticed immediately. Okay, she said, sliding onto a stool at the counter. Why does it feel like I just walked into a live taping of The Bachelor? Small town edition? Ethan laughed. Word travels fast here. Oh no, Brooke groaned. What did they say? That you're secretly royalty, or possibly an undercover food critic, or my future wife. It's hard to keep up. Her eyes widened. What? He grinned. Relax. Around here, people get invested. If someone buys you coffee twice, the wedding invitations practically print themselves. Brooke dropped her head into her hands. I've been here 5 minutes and I'm already a public spectacle. Welcome to Maplewood, Ethan said cheerfully. She peeked at him through her fingers. You're enjoying this way too much. I might be, he admitted. You handle chaos well, though. Brooke straightened, smirking. I'm a woman in corporate leadership, Ethan. I've survived worse than small-town gossip. He laughed, shaking his head. Touché. Lily appeared from the kitchen with a chocolate milk mustache and the triumphant energy of a 4-year-old with insider information. Daddy, Miss Brooks here again, she announced to everyone. Ethan groaned softly. Thank you, honey. Lily ran up to Brooke, hugging her legs. Did you bring Mr. Ghost? Not today, Brooke said, smiling down at her. He's guarding the house, or plotting world domination. It's hard to tell. Lily giggled. He can come next time. Brooke nodded solemnly. I'll tell him his public awaits. Ethan handed her a mug. Flat white, right? Brooke blinked. You remembered my order. I pay attention. Something fluttered in her chest again. That now familiar warmth she kept pretending not to feel. Careful, she said lightly. You'll ruin my reputation as a cynic. He leaned across the counter, just enough that she caught the faint scent of cinnamon and soap. Maybe it's time someone did. Brooke blinked, heartbeat quickening. He said it casually, almost teasingly, but there was something under it. Before she could find a response, Mrs. Danvers' voice carried across the cafe. Oh, look at them, Mildred. Young love. Brooke covered her face with both hands. I'm moving, she muttered, to another planet. Ethan chuckled, setting down a plate of muffins. You get used to it, do you? Not really, he admitted, but it's entertaining. Later that afternoon, Brooke took her coffee to one of the window tables and opened her laptop. Work emails didn't stop just because she was technically on a break, and honestly, she liked the quiet hum of the cafe. It was busier now, but peaceful. Ethan worked behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, laughing with customers. Every so often, Brooke caught him glancing her way. She pretended not to notice, except she did notice, every single time. By the fourth glance, she texted Marcy. Brooke, if a man makes really good coffee and remembers your drink order, is that a red flag or a red velvet cake level delight? Marcy, girl, that's a green flag, and a potential ring color. Brooke bit her lip to stop from laughing. Ethan joined her when the rush died down, carrying 2 refills and that easy grin that seemed to disarm her every time. You working or hiding? He asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Both, she said. If I hide behind this spreadsheet long enough, maybe Mrs. Danvers will stop planning our engagement party. He chuckled. You underestimate Mrs. Danvers. She's probably already picked a floral theme. Peonies or death, Brooke said dryly. Ethan laughed so hard his shoulders shook. You really do fit right in here. I doubt that. No, seriously, he said, tone softening. You're quick, you're funny, and you don't take yourself too seriously. You make people comfortable. Brooke blinked, not used to compliments that sounded like truth. That's unexpectedly kind. It's just accurate, he said simply. She smiled faintly. You're good at that. At what? Making me feel seen. His eyes met hers, steady and warm. Maybe because I actually see you. Her breath caught. Before she could say something she might regret, Lily reappeared with a coloring book. Miss Brooke, can you help me color Mr. Ghost? Brooke exhaled, grateful for the interruption. Absolutely. They spent the next half hour coloring a very creative rendition of a cat wearing a cape and sunglasses. Super ghost, Lily declared proudly. Ethan grinned. I think we found your next brand mascot. Brooke laughed. Careful. He'll want merchandising rights. As the day faded into late afternoon, the cafe grew quiet again. Brooke closed her laptop and leaned back, stretching. Thank you, she said softly. For the coffee? For the space. The normalcy. Ethan tilted his head. You say that like it's rare. It is, she admitted. In my world, everything's strategy, optics, and hustle. Nobody just sits and talks anymore. He smiled gently. Then sit and talk here. No meetings required. Her lips quirked. Dangerous offer. I like danger. She met his gaze, the air between them humming with something unspoken. Then, of course, Mrs. Danvers chose that moment to loudly announce, well, would you look at that? Chemistry and caffeine. Brooke groaned. Ethan just grinned. That evening, Brooke stopped by the park before heading home. She let Nostradamus out of his carrier, watching him pad silently through the grass, tail high, surveying his small kingdom. It was peaceful here, the kind of quiet that softened sharp edges. She sat on the same bench where she'd first met Ethan and Lily, her phone buzzing with new work emails she didn't open. For once, she didn't want to. Her thoughts drifted back to Ethan's laugh, Lily's bright curiosity, the way people in town smiled like it was second nature. She wasn't sure what she was feeling, but it was different, real, a warmth that didn't demand anything of her. Nostradamus jumped into her lap, curling up with a satisfied purr. You planned all this, she murmured. He blinked. First the picnic, now the cafe. Admit it, you're the mastermind. A lazy tail flick. Brooke smiled. Fine. I'll take the hint. Across town, Ethan was locking up the cafe when his phone buzzed. Brooke, tell Mrs. Danvers I expect peonies at the reception. Ethan, should I warn the florist? Brooke, only if you're serious about the cake. Ethan, always serious about cake. He laughed quietly, pocketing the phone. The smile lingered long after the lights went out. That night, back at her parents' house, Brooke found herself standing by the window with a glass of wine, watching the town settle into sleep. Her mom peeked in from the hallway. Out late with anyone interesting? Brooke turned, smiling. Define interesting. Her mom smirked. Male, single, charming, owns a coffee shop. Brooke sighed. You really don't miss a thing, do you? Not when it comes to my daughter. Brooke hesitated, then admitted softly. He's nice. He feels easy to be around. No agendas. Just real. Her mom's smile softened. That's what you deserve, sweetheart. Brooke looked down at her glass, then out at the street again. Maybe for once, I'll stop fighting it. From the couch, Nostradamus yawned like he'd been waiting for her to catch up all along. Chapter 7, The Invitation. Brooke's mother, Diane Tinsley, had many talents. Quiet subtlety was not one of them. When she announced at breakfast that she was just having a few people over for dinner Friday night, Brooke knew exactly what that meant. A full-blown social event disguised as casual hospitality. Her father, Howard, had merely looked over his newspaper and muttered, Brace yourself, kiddo. Brooke narrowed her eyes. Who's coming, Mom? Oh, just some friends, Diane said too casually, stirring her tea. Friends, Brooke repeated, unconvinced. Her mom's lips twitched. And Ethan and his daughter, Lily. Brooke groaned, dropping her forehead to the table. Mom, what? Diane said innocently. He's a lovely young man, and his little girl is adorable. Besides, you've been spending time with them already. Brooke peeked up from her arms. You didn't invite my old calculus teacher, did you? Don't be dramatic. She's away in Florida. Howard cleared his throat, smirking behind his mug. Just say thank you, sweetheart. Your mother's matchmaking itch hasn't been scratched in years. Diane swatted him with a napkin. It's not matchmaking. It's community building. Brooke sighed. Fine. But if you start lighting candles and playing romantic jazz, I'm faking food poisoning. Noted, Diane said cheerfully. We'll do bossa nova instead. When Friday rolled around, the house smelled like rosemary chicken and baked apples. The dining room table, which could comfortably seat 6, had been expanded to accommodate 10, just in case. Brooke stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, while Nostradamus lounged atop the fridge like a dark gargoyle overseeing the proceedings. Don't look at me like that, she told him. This is not my idea. The cat blinked. Fine, she muttered. Maybe I'm curious to see them again. At precisely 6:30, the doorbell rang. Diane nearly sprinted to answer it, while Brooke froze mid-stir. From the foyer came the sound of Lily's delighted voice. It smells so good. Ethan followed with a low chuckle. We brought dessert. And by we, I mean Lily picked out cookies shaped like cats. Diane clapped her hands. Perfect. We love cats here. Brooke whispered to Nostradamus. Well, at least someone does. The cat's tail flicked like an amused shrug. When she finally stepped into the living room, Brooke stopped short. Ethan stood there holding a basket of cookies, wearing a button-down shirt that was probably chosen with zero effort and yet fit him irritatingly well. Lily wore a tiny sundress with cartoon kittens and was holding a small bouquet of dandelions. "These are for you," Lily said solemnly, offering them to Brooke. Brooke melted instantly. "They're beautiful. Thank you, sweetheart." "Daddy said they're wildflowers," Lily said proudly. Ethan smiled. Technically true. Diane's grin was wide enough to power the town. Come in. Make yourselves at home." Dinner began as most polite meals do. Pleasant conversation, a little small talk, and lots of food. By the third course, it had evolved into lively laughter and gentle teasing. "So, Ethan," Howard said, slicing into his chicken, "you run the coffee shop downtown, right?" "Yep, the Copper Spoon. Best part of the job is I get to meet everyone in town, except the ones too shy to admit they're addicted to caffeine." Howard chuckled. "That's a noble profession. Keeps civilization functioning." Ethan grinned. "That's what I tell my accountant." Brooke smiled, watching the easy rhythm between them. Her dad didn't warm up to many people, but Ethan had that disarming, steady kindness that seemed to melt resistance. "So, Brooke," her mother said sweetly, "you and Ethan met at the park, right?" Brooke shot her a warning look. "Yes, Mom. And your cat just walked right up to him?" Brooke sighed. "Yes, Mom." "Fascinating," Diane mused. "Cats are excellent judges of character." Ethan laughed. "Then I feel honored. Nostradamus has high standards." Howard leaned in. "You're not wrong. That cat once glared at me for 3 days straight after I wore a hat he didn't like." Lily gasped. "Mr. Ghost glares?" "Professionally," Brooke said. "He could give corporate executives lessons." The table erupted in laughter. After dinner, they migrated to the porch for coffee and dessert. Fireflies danced lazily across the lawn, and the early summer air carried the soft hum of crickets. Lily was curled up beside Diane, happily munching a cookie, while Brooke and Ethan sat on the porch steps, a comfortable space between them. "This was really nice," Ethan said quietly. "My mom lives for dinner parties," Brooke replied. "If she had her way, she'd host the entire zip code." "She's got a gift," he said, smiling. "Makes people feel welcome." Brooke nodded. "She does." They sat in companionable silence for a while, listening to the soft murmur of conversation from the porch table. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said after a moment. "Sure." He turned his coffee mug in his hands. "You seem comfortable here, but also like you're waiting for someone to call you back to another life." Brooke glanced at him, surprised. "That's perceptive." He shrugged lightly. "Barista superpower. We listen more than we talk." She smiled faintly. "You're not wrong. I love my job, but it's consuming. You start living for deadlines instead of days." Ethan nodded. "I get that. After Lily's mom passed, I buried myself in work for a while. Told myself I was doing it for her, but really I was just hiding from everything else." Brooke's chest tightened. "I didn't know." "It was a few years ago," he said softly. "She was sick for a long time. Lily barely remembers her. Some days that's a relief, and some days it breaks my heart." Brooke reached out, instinctively resting her hand on his. "I'm so sorry." He gave a small, grateful smile. "It's okay. It taught me something, though." "What's that?" "That life's too short to wait for perfect timing." Their eyes met, and for a moment the world went quiet, just the faint glow of fireflies and the sound of their breathing. Brooke swallowed. "You make it sound simple." "Doesn't mean it's easy," he said. "Just worth trying." Before she could answer, Nostradamus appeared at the edge of the porch, his dark form blending with the shadows. He trotted over, jumped onto Brooke's lap, and promptly glared at Ethan as if evaluating his performance. Ethan laughed softly. "Guess I'm being assessed." "Looks like you're passing," Brooke said, stroking the cat. "He hasn't clawed you yet." "High praise." They both chuckled, the tension easing into something warmer. Inside, Diane peeked through the window blinds and whispered to Howard, "Look at them. Adorable." Howard chuckled. "You're insufferable." She elbowed him lightly. "Tell me I'm wrong." "You're not," he admitted. "But if you burn through all your matchmaking energy on this, I'm not hosting any engagement showers." Diane grinned. "We'll see." Later, as guests began to drift home, Ethan helped Brooke carry dishes back to the kitchen. "You really didn't have to," she said, stacking plates in the sink. "I'm a dad," he replied. "Cleanup is my cardio." She laughed. "You make everything sound easy." "It's all about attitude," he said. "And bribery. Mostly bribery." She grinned. "Parenting tip?" "Universal truth." Their eyes met again over the sink. Something in his gaze was soft but steady, curiosity maybe, or admiration. "So," he said after a beat, "will I see you at the park again this weekend?" Brooke tilted her head. "Is that an invitation? Call it a coincidence waiting to happen." She smiled, heart fluttering in that dangerous way. "Then I guess I'll have to bring Nostradamus. He has standards to maintain." Of course, wouldn't dream of disappointing him. When they finally said goodnight, Ethan lifted Lily into his arms, her head resting sleepily on his shoulder. "Thank you for dinner," he said to Diane and Howard. "It was wonderful." "Anytime," Diane said warmly. "You and Lily are always welcome." Brooke followed them to the porch, walking them out to the car. Lily stirred, mumbling, "Bye, Miss Brooke. Bye, Mr. Ghost." Brooke smiled softly. "Good night, sweetheart." As Ethan buckled her in, he turned back and said quietly, "Tonight was really good, Brooke." "Yeah," she said. "It was." He hesitated a moment longer, then smiled. "See you soon." When the taillights disappeared down the street, Brooke exhaled slowly, realizing her heart was still racing. From the windowsill, Nostradamus stared at her, unimpressed. "Oh, stop judging me," she said. "He's just nice." The cat blinked, as if to say, "You're not fooling anyone." Upstairs, Diane peeked into Brooke's room before bed. Her daughter sat cross-legged on the floor, idly petting Nostradamus, her gaze distant. "He seems like a good man," Diane said softly. Brooke looked up, a small smile tugging at her lips. "He is. You like him?" Brooke sighed, not quite denying it. "Maybe. It's complicated." Diane chuckled. "It's always complicated until it's not." Brooke smiled faintly. "You sound like a fortune cookie." "Then I'll add this. You've worked hard to build something strong, Brooke. But don't forget, love doesn't compete with who you are. It adds to it." Brooke's throat tightened. "I know. I just don't want to lose myself again." Her mom leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Then find someone who sees you instead of your success." Brooke thought of Ethan's eyes when he'd said, "Maybe because I actually see you." She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Chapter 8, The Park Promise. Saturday mornings in Maplewood always carried a kind of golden calm. The sunlight slower, the air softer, the whole town unhurried. For Brooke, it felt like pressing pause on everything that usually demanded her energy. There were no buzzing emails, no urgent meetings, no clients waiting to be charmed. Just the park, a thermos of coffee, and a certain sleek black cat currently stalking a particularly bold squirrel. "Nostradamus," she said, half laughing. "Don't even think about it." The cat froze mid-creep, turned his head, and blinked at her like a disappointed hunter who had just been interrupted by his assistant. Then, with regal indifference, he flopped onto the grass, rolling onto his back as if to say, "I was never hunting." "You imagined it." Brooke smiled, taking a slow sip of her coffee. The park was already dotted with families, joggers, and a few elderly couples feeding ducks. Kids squealed somewhere near the playground. It was also normal, she thought, so ordinary it felt extraordinary. And then she spotted Ethan and Lily. He was carrying a picnic basket, she a stuffed bunny under one arm and an energy level that could power a city. When Lily saw Brooke, she broke into a run, waving wildly. "Miss Brooke! Miss Brooke!" Brooke crouched down, laughing as Lily threw her arms around her neck. "Well, hello, sunshine." Lily giggled. "We brought sandwiches. Daddy said you'd be here." Brooke raised an eyebrow at Ethan as he approached. "Did he now?" Ethan smiled, a little sheepish. "She made me promise. Said Mr. Ghost would be disappointed if we didn't come." At the sound of his name, Nostradamus lifted his head, tail flicking lazily. "He looks disappointed anyway," Ethan added. "Always," Brooke said. "It's his aesthetic." Ethan laughed, setting down the picnic basket. "Then we'll have to win him over." They spread a blanket beneath a big oak, the sunlight spilling in dappled patches across the grass. Lily set out sandwiches and juice boxes with great ceremony while Brooke poured coffee into paper cups. "So," Ethan said, taking one, "how's life in the Tinsley household? Your mom hasn't sent out wedding invitations yet, has she?" Brooke groaned. "Don't even joke. She hinted about setting a date for our next dinner. I told her to pace herself." He laughed. "I think she's just happy to see you home." "Maybe," Brooke admitted, looking out toward the pond. "It's been a long time since I stayed this long. Usually I'm too wrapped up in work." Ethan tilted his head. "And now," she shrugged. "Now, I'm wondering what I've been running back to so fast." He studied her for a moment. "You ever think about STA-ing longer?" "Here?" she said, half teasing, half curious. "Yeah, Maplewood's not a bad place to be. Slower pace. Good coffee." Brooke smirked. "Biased opinion." "Completely," he said easily. "But still true." Before she could reply, Lily plopped down between them with a juice box and the absolute seriousness of a tiny diplomat. "Daddy says Miss Brooke works with big people in big buildings." "That's one way to describe it," Brooke said with a smile. "I do business things. Lots of talking and planning." Lily nodded gravely. "That sounds boring." Ethan chuckled. "You're not wrong, kiddo." Brooke laughed. "Okay, fair. Can be boring sometimes. But it's also exciting when you make something happen. When hard work pays off." Lily thought about that, sipping her juice. "Like when you finally get the monkey bars?" "Exactly," Brooke said. Ethan gave her an amused look. "You're good with her." Brooke smiled. "She's easy to like." "Yeah," he said softly. "She is." There was something in his voice, a quiet pride mixed with tenderness. It made Brooke's heart twist in a way she wasn't prepared for. As the morning stretched on, the three of them fell into a comfortable rhythm. Lily drew pictures in the dirt with a stick. Ethan helped her build an elaborate leaf and stick castle, and Nostradamus prowled around as self-appointed supervisor. At one point, Lily reached out to pet him. "Mr. Ghost, you're so soft." The cat, shockingly, tolerated it. Even purred. Brooke blinked. "He doesn't do that for anyone." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Guess that's approval." "Don't say that too loud," Brooke whispered. "He'll start charging rent." They both laughed, and the sound carried easily across the park. Felt easy, like they'd been doing this forever. Later, as Lily wandered off to play with another child nearby, Brooke leaned back against the tree, watching her with a soft smile. "She's incredible," she said quietly. Ethan followed her gaze. "Yeah, she's my whole world." Brooke hesitated. "You're really good with her. Patient, present. That's rare." He smiled, but there was something wistful behind it. "I didn't used to be. After her mom died, I kept thinking I had to fill both roles. Be everything, do everything right. I tried so hard I forgot she just needed me to be there." Brooke looked at him, her voice soft. "That's not an easy lesson." He met her eyes. "Neither is letting people in again." Their gazes held, quiet and charged. The air between them seemed to hum, unspoken understanding, shared vulnerability. Then Nostradamus yawned loudly, flicking his tail between them as if to say, "Not on my watch." Ethan laughed under his breath. "Guess your bodyguard's still on duty." Brooke smiled. "Always. He's very committed to my emotional unavailability." "Sounds like a tough boss." "The toughest." They both laughed again, and the moment, though interrupted, lingered like the aftertaste of something sweet. Around noon, Lily came running back, breathless. "Miss Brooke, Daddy, look, there's a frog." She cupped her hands, revealing a tiny green blur. Brooke leaned closer, impressed. "That's quite the catch, Lily." "I think he's smiling," she said proudly. Ethan looked skeptical. "He's probably terrified." "Nah," Lily said. "He likes me." Brooke grinned. "I believe you." Nostradamus peered down, sniffed once, and turned away with imperial disdain. Lily gasped. "Mr. Ghost doesn't like frogs?" "Not his crowd," Brooke said. "Too jumpy." They all burst into laughter again. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, they packed up the picnic. Lily was beginning to fade, sticky with juice and happiness, clutching her stuffed bunny like a tiny queen after a long day of diplomacy. Ethan loaded the basket, then turned to Brooke. "Thanks for spending the day with us. She's been talking about it all week." Brooke smiled. "Honestly, I needed it too. No deadlines, no chaos, just this." He nodded. "The quiet can be addictive." She glanced at him, sunlight catching the edge of his smile. "Maybe I should take that as a warning. Or a promise," he said, tone softer. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed down to just that. His voice, the warmth in his eyes, the steady thrum of something new and dangerous in her chest. Before she could say anything, Lily called, "Miss Brooke, can Mr. Ghost come next time too?" Brooke blinked, breaking the spell. "He never misses a social engagement." "Then it's a promise," Lily said. Brooke met Ethan's gaze again, smiling. "A park promise, then." "Deal," he said quietly. They walked back toward the parking lot together, Lily skipping ahead. Nostradamus trotted behind, tail high, like a satisfied chaperone. When they reached Brooke's car, Ethan lingered, one hand resting on the picnic basket. "You know," he said, "for a guy who doesn't believe in fate, I'm starting to think your cat might." Brooke laughed. "He's been matchmaking since the day he broke into my apartment. I might owe him a treat then. He prefers salmon. I'll make a note." For a moment, neither of them moved. The hum of the highway beyond the park seemed distant, irrelevant. "Ethan," Brooke said softly, "I don't know where any of this is going." He smiled faintly. "That's okay. I'm not in a rush." She exhaled. "I've spent a lot of years building walls, and I'm not great at lowering them." He met her eyes. "Then I'll wait outside until you do." It was so simple, so sincere, it undid something inside her. Brooke found herself smiling. "That's very inconveniently romantic." "Can't help it. Comes with the coffee beans." They laughed, but it wasn't the light, polite kind. It was the kind that came when two people knew they were both teetering on the edge of something real. That evening, back at her apartment, Brooke opened the window and watched the city lights flicker in the distance. Nostradamus jumped onto the sill beside her, his fur brushing her arm. "You're awfully pleased with yourself," she said. He purred. Brooke sipped her tea, thinking of the sunlight, Lily's laughter, Ethan's eyes, the easy rhythm of it all. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel lonely in the quiet. Maybe, she thought, it wasn't about choosing between love and the life she'd built. Maybe it was about finding someone who fit with it. Nostradamus meowed softly, as if agreeing. Brooke smiled. "Yeah," she murmured. "I'll take that as a yes." Chapter 9, the confession that wasn't. Monday mornings were not Brooke's favorite. Even the hum of her coffee machine, usually a comforting ritual, sounded like a mocking drumline. Nostradamus, sprawled across her keyboard as if to assert ownership of her work, blinked at her knowingly. "You're in a mood," she muttered, pushing him gently aside. He responded with a low rumble, the kind that suggested, I know exactly what mood you're in. It involves a man and a child and daylight savings for your heart. Brooke ignored him. Her phone buzzed insistently on the counter. She picked it up. Brooke Tinsley. Brooke, hi. It's Carolyn from Malvern and Associates. We have a client meeting tomorrow, and they've fast-tracked the contract. They need the full proposal by end of day Tuesday. Brooke's pulse jumped, and not in a good way. Tomorrow? That's aggressive. It's legal compliance, Carolyn said. Trademark approvals came through, so they're moving fast. Can you handle it? Brooke pinched the bridge of her nose. Yes, I can. Great. We're counting on you, Brooke. Thanks. Click. She exhaled slowly. Nostradamus sat up and blinked. You didn't even pause, he seemed to say. I didn't have time to pause, she muttered. I literally have to finish a proposal, not collapse into a puddle of emotion. Brooke arrived at the office that morning, her coffee lukewarm, her hair slightly frazzled, and her mood oscillating between practical businesswoman and terrified human who needs a hug. Her assistant, Marcy, handed her a stack of files like a small paper fortress. Don't fall, she said seriously. Brooke laughed dryly. No promises. As she settled in, her mind wandered back to the park, the golden sunlight, the way Ethan's hand had brushed hers for just a fraction of a second. She shook her head. Not now. Not now, Brooke. Focus. Nostradamus, naturally, was nowhere in sight, presumably supervising the office remotely via invisible psychic transmission. By late morning, her emails and calls were a relentless tide. She was typing an executive summary when her phone buzzed again, this time a text. Ethan, thinking about the park. Lily wants to know if you're free this weekend. Brooke stared at the message, heart skipping. She typed, then erased, then typed again. Brooke, maybe. Depends on deadlines. Send? She hesitated. Nostradamus might have blinked judgmentally if he were there. She hit send anyway. Within seconds, Ethan. Understood. Will survive somehow. Lily insists on a frog show. She laughed softly. That kid and her frogs. By mid-afternoon, Brooke realized she hadn't eaten. Not even a granola bar. She poured herself a coffee, hands shaking slightly from both caffeine and stress. That's when Ethan walked into her office. Hello, he said, leaning casually against the doorframe. I come bearing moral support. Brooke blinked. You didn't have to. I figured it was cheaper than flowers, he said, grinning. And more effective than chocolate. She raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Absolutely. Studies suggest presence, humor, and a hint of charm are more effective than sweets. Brooke laughed despite herself. You really think you're persuasive? I know I am, he said, arms crossed but eyes warm. Now a coffee? Or should I start bringing frog shows too? You're testing me, she said, though her smile betrayed her. Merely an experiment, he said, sitting down on the edge of her desk. I hear stress can be mitigated by mild distractions. Brooke gestured toward her laptop. I have minor stress. Noted. He picked up her half-empty coffee cup. Allow me to improve this situation. She watched him pour cream in the precise way he probably thought scientifically mitigated her anxiety. Nostradamus would have judged him for using too much. Brooke shook her head. This is unfair. You're making it impossible to hate work. Ethan smirked. I'm skilled like that. Hours passed, and the two of them talked quietly in between Brooke's furious typing. Conversations were sprinkled with laughter, debates over proper frog nutrition, Ethan's idea, and subtle glimpses into each other's personal lives. At one point, Brooke's hand brushed Ethan's as she reached for a file. Oh, she said, jerking slightly back. Sorry. No need, he said calmly, voice low. You didn't hurt me. Her heart stuttered. Relax, he said, eye steady. I'm not offended. Brooke swallowed. Her pulse betrayed her. She opened her mouth to say something real, but before the words could leave, her phone buzzed again. Carolyn? Brooke? Urgent. We need a call ASAP regarding amendments to the proposal. Can you conference now? Brooke groaned. I have to. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Work emergency? Yes, terrible timing. He nodded, understanding. Go. I'll wait. Thanks. She grabbed her headset, shutting the door between her and the tiny world she'd just begun to carve out with him. The call lasted 2 hours. By the time she emerged, the sun was low in the sky. She rubbed her eyes and sighed. Ethan was still there, leaning against her desk, sipping what looked like his third cup of coffee. Nostradamus had returned, tail flicking, as if inspecting the aftermath of her productivity. You survived? Ethan asked. Barely, Brooke muttered. Do you have the power to make deadlines disappear? I wish, he said, but I can offer pizza and moral support. Brooke laughed despite herself. You really have an answer for everything. I specialize in emergencies, he said. There was a moment of silence. Brooke's stomach tightened. She wanted to tell him everything, about the park, about Lily, about the way her heart skipped every time he smiled at her. But before she could, her phone buzzed again. Another urgent work email. She started, then trailed off, frustrated with herself. Can't right now. I have to. I get it, he said softly. Work comes first. She nodded, biting her lip. I'm sorry. I wanted to say something. You can say it later, he said. There's no rush. Brooke exhaled, feeling both relief and frustration. He was patient, understanding. But patience had a way of being a double-edged sword. It gave her space, but it also gave her time to talk herself out of the truth. Nostradamus jumped onto the desk, stretching across her keyboard. Brooke sighed, rubbing his ears. Even you think I'm avoiding it, don't you? The cat blinked, unimpressed. Yeah, I know. I'm a disaster, she muttered. Ethan leaned a little closer. Not a disaster, just cautious. Brooke's heart squeezed. I'm scared. Of what? Of losing control. Of messing this up. Of caring too much. Ethan smiled softly. Caring isn't a weakness. Not when it's honest. Her chest tightened because she knew he was right. She had felt it all morning. Felt it in her laughter. Her quiet smiles. The way her pulse jumped every time Lily's hand reached for hers. But the phone buzzed again. She looked down. I have to answer this. I'm not saying it now. He nodded. Later, then. Brooke swallowed, knowing later could mean tomorrow, next week, or never. But she also knew something else. He was willing to wait. And that, she realized, was more than anyone else had ever offered her. That evening, back in her apartment, Brooke sat on the floor with Nostradamus curled in her lap, her laptop closed and emails temporarily ignored. She thought about Ethan. His laugh, the way he looked at Lily, the calm warmth he brought to chaos. And she thought about the words she hadn't said, the confession that remained unspoken, trapped behind deadlines and practicality. Nostradamus purred against her chest. You know, she said softly, stroking his ears, maybe it's time I stopped running, even just a little. The cat blinked, as if agreeing with this revolutionary idea. Brooke smiled faintly. Yeah, she whispered. Maybe later isn't too late after all. Chapter 10. Unexpected visit. Brooke had just settled onto her couch with a glass of wine and a book when she heard the soft tap, tap, tap at her door. Her heart skipped. She wasn't expecting anyone. Nostradamus, sprawled across her lap, twitched an ear toward the sound, then gave her a look that clearly said, This is your problem now. Not now, buddy, she whispered. I'm relaxing. Another tap, louder this time. Brooke put down her book, slid off the couch, and peeked through the peephole. Ethan, standing there with a small bouquet of wildflowers in one hand, a sheepish grin on his face, and Lily tugging lightly at his sleeve with the other. Oh, Brooke muttered, opening the door. Hi, he said, voice casual but with a warmth that made her heart do something silly in her chest. I know it's late, but we were in the neighborhood. Lily piped up immediately. Daddy said you might want flowers. Brooke knelt to accept the small bouquet. You didn't have to. I know, Ethan said lightly, but I wanted to. She smiled faintly, smelling the faint perfume of wildflowers. They're beautiful. Thank you. Lily bounced on her heels. We brought Mr. Ghost a treat. Brooke raised an eyebrow. You brought him what? Ethan pulled a small package from his pocket. A tin of gourmet cat treats. Nostradamus, who had been sitting on the windowsill observing all this, immediately recognized the sound of crinkling paper. He leapt down gracefully, tail flicking. Brooke stared, incredulous. Did you just train him to respond to that? Nope, Ethan said, laughing. Just respect his authority. Brooke shook her head. I don't know if I should be impressed or terrified. They all stepped inside. Nostradamus immediately claimed the living room rug as his domain, sniffing the treats cautiously before munching with dignity. Brooke closed the door, leaning against it. Look, Ethan, this is a surprise. I wasn't expecting you tonight. Yeah, he admitted, scratching the back of his neck. I figured a little spontaneity might be nice. And, well, I wanted to see you. Her heart thudded. You wanted to see me? Yes, he said, stepping closer. I mean, I needed to see you. Brooke's mind raced. Focus. Don't faint. Don't spill coffee. Don't. She couldn't stop herself from smiling. You're very direct for someone who owns a coffee shop. Only about the important things, he said softly. Lily plopped onto the couch beside Brooke, bouncing slightly. Daddy says it's okay if we watch a movie. Which one? Brooke asked. Puss in Boots, Lily exclaimed. Brooke laughed. Of course. What else would we watch? As Lily scrambled to the DVD player, Ethan leaned against the arm of the couch, casually close, yet clearly giving her space. Brooke's chest tightened, awareness of proximity making her suddenly very aware of everything. His eyes, the way the light caught his hair, the warmth of his shoulder near hers. So, Ethan said, voice low, almost teasing. How was your weekend without me? She blinked. It was fine. Normal. Productive. Fine? Normal? Productive? He repeated, incredulous. That doesn't sound like Brooke Tinsley. She smirked, trying to regain composure. I'm very good at pretending. I think you've met your match, he said, stepping a little closer. I see right through that. Brooke's stomach fluttered. Do you now? I do, he said simply. And I like what I see. Her breath hitched. She wanted to laugh, to argue, to retreat, but none of those options felt right. She just looked at him. Lily, blissfully oblivious to the tension, handed Nostradamus a treat. The cat purred loudly, tail flicking, seemingly satisfied that the room was orderly and approving of Ethan. Brooke chuckled softly. Even he's in on this, huh? Ethan smiled. He's a very good judge of character. And I'm honored. Brooke's chest warmed. Why did everything about him feel like it mattered? Ethan took a step closer, and Brooke felt the pull, an invisible magnetic force she had spent years pretending didn't exist. Brooke, he said softly, I'm not going to pretend this is casual. Before he could continue, her phone buzzed, dragging her abruptly back to reality. Shoot, she muttered, looking at the screen. Work, always work. Sorry, I have to take this. Ethan nodded, but there was a subtle disappointment in his eyes. Go. I'll be here when you're done. She tapped through the call quickly, frustrated. Why can't I just be here? When she hung up, Ethan was still leaning against the couch, looking at her as if nothing could shake the connection between them. Brooke sat down beside him cautiously, her hands fidgeting. I'm sorry. For what? He asked softly. For this. She gestured vaguely between them. For being scared. For waiting. For everything. He smiled faintly. You don't have to apologize for feeling, Brooke. Not to me. She stopped, words lodged somewhere between her heart and her lips. He reached out gently, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. You don't have to say it yet. Just feel it. That's enough. Brooke's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him how much she cared, how much she'd been holding back, how every instinct in her body screamed that he was the right person to let in. But she couldn't. Not yet. The phone call, the stress, the past, they all tangled with her desire to just leap. She swallowed. I can't. Not yet. Then we wait, he said simply. I'll wait. No rush. No pressure. It was infuriatingly kind, patient, and right. Her heart ached in that delicious, terrifying way. Lily, now curled up with her stuffed bunny, yawned loudly. Daddy, Miss Brooke, are you too? Brooke and Ethan froze. Are we what? Brooke asked, heart thudding. Best friends. Lily asked innocently, tilting her head. Or maybe more? Brooke blinked. Lily. Ethan chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. We're just figuring it out, pumpkin. Lily nodded solemnly. Okay, but Mr. Ghost approves, right? Nostradamus blinked slowly, flicking his tail once, apparently bestowing his silent blessing. Brooke laughed, the tension breaking. Yeah, he approves. Ethan's eyes met hers, steady and calm. Then I guess that's all that matters. Her heart squeezed. She wanted to say more, wanted to leap into the moment, but the weight of practicality held her back. Instead, she smiled, soft and real. I'll try. That's all I ask, he said, voice low and tender. Later, as Ethan and Lily left, Brooke stood at the door watching them walk down the street. Nostradamus brushed against her leg, purring approvingly. Yeah, she whispered, stroking him absently. I'll try. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't the surrender of her heart. But it was something. And for the first time in a long time, Brooke allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, later wouldn't be too late. Chapter 11, The Work Challenge and the Heart. Brooke's phone rang just as she was finishing a cup of coffee at her apartment. She picked it up with mild dread. Brooke Tinsley. Yes, she said cautiously. This is Jameson Clark at Meridian Enterprises. I'm calling about your proposal. We've reviewed your revisions and, well, they want to meet in person. Tomorrow. Boston. 1-day turnaround. Brooke blinked. Tomorrow? That's insane. Exactly, he said cheerfully. We trust you can handle it. She pinched the bridge of her nose. Yes, of course. I'll make it work. Click. Nostradamus, sprawled across the counter, gave her a sharp look. It was the kind of look that clearly said, Really? You're about to leave me for a plane ride and client chaos? Yeah, I know, she muttered. It's horrible timing. By mid-morning, Brooke was on the phone with her assistant, Marcy, frantically coordinating travel, prepping documents, and juggling client requests. Her apartment felt smaller than ever. Nostradamus, for the first time in weeks, had retreated to the top of the refrigerator, glaring down like a tiny furry general overseeing a failing operation. Her chest tightened. She had planned to spend the weekend with Ethan and Lily, to keep building this fragile, new connection. And now she was being yanked back into the whirlwind of contracts, legal revisions, and boardroom politics. She sighed. I hate this. I hate this, she muttered aloud. Later that evening, she met Ethan at the Copper Spoon, their usual Saturday ritual reduced to a hurried coffee and the smallest slice of time together. You look tired, he said softly, sliding into the seat across from her. I am, Brooke admitted. I have to fly to Boston tomorrow. Client wants the proposal in person, 1 day turnaround. I barely have time to breathe. Ethan reached across the table, covering her hand with his. I'm sorry. I know how much you were looking forward to this weekend. She gave a rueful smile. Yeah, me too. They sat for a moment in silence, the hum of the cafe around them fading. Nostradamus was perched on the windowsill, tail flicking, seemingly aware of the tension. I hate how work always wins, Brooke said finally. I feel like I'm constantly choosing between what I want and what I should be doing. Ethan's gaze was soft, steady. You're good at building things, companies, strategies, everything. But sometimes the hardest thing to build is yourself. Brooke's breath caught. I don't know how to do both. Career and this. She gestured vaguely toward him, toward the feeling she couldn't yet name aloud. You can, he said simply. You just have to decide what matters enough to fight for. Her fingers tightened around his hand. She wanted to tell him everything. How she'd thought she'd lost this chance at love and family. How Lily's laughter had made her heart ache in ways work never could. But the phone buzzed again. Another client email. Another reminder that she couldn't pause reality. I can't right now, she whispered, frustration twinging through her voice. Then later, he said gently. There's always later. Brooke nodded. But inside, later suddenly seemed so far away. The flight to Boston the next morning was brutal. Brooke reviewed documents on the plane, fielded last-minute questions from the client, and tried to maintain a calm exterior while her nerves buzzed. By the time she arrived at Meridian Enterprises, her adrenaline had spiked, her hair was slightly mussed, and her laptop was precariously balanced on her briefcase. The boardroom was intimidating, filled with stern faces and polished suits. Brooke knew this environment well. She thrived under pressure. But her mind kept drifting back to Ethan, to Lily, to the quiet park mornings that felt like a distant memory now. Jameson Clark, the client, wasted no time. Ms. Tinsley, we're impressed with the revisions. However, there are a few areas we need clarified, and we need your strategic input on rollout. Brooke took a deep breath. Absolutely. I've prepared some recommendations that I think will meet your requirements and maintain brand integrity. For the next 4 hours, she navigated negotiations, legal nuances, and financial projections, her focus razor-sharp. But every so often, she felt the pull of what she'd left behind, the laughter, the warmth, the sense of being seen for more than just her professional skill. By the time the meeting ended, she was exhausted but victorious. The client was satisfied, the proposal approved, and her reputation intact. And yet, she felt a pang of something else. That evening, she called Ethan, hands shaking slightly from caffeine and adrenaline. Hey, she said, voice soft. Brooke, he said immediately, concern in his tone. How did it go? It's done, she said. Client's happy. Proposal approved. There was a pause. That's amazing. I'm proud of you. Brooke's chest tightened at the sincerity in his voice. Thanks, but I missed you, and Lily, and the park. It all feels unreal now. Ethan chuckled softly. That's because it's real. Even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes. You just proved you can do both. You're incredible, Brooke. She smiled faintly. I hope I didn't screw up the connection between us. You didn't, he said firmly. You just had a very important career to save. And now you can come back and… I know, she said softly, cutting him off. I'll try. He laughed. You're already trying. That's what matters. Brooke returned to Maplewood the next evening, her body tired but her spirit quietly humming with a sense of accomplishment. Nostradamus greeted her with a gentle rub against her legs, clearly unimpressed with her globe-trotting heroics. She texted Ethan, Brooke, home, exhausted, missing the park, Lily and you. Ethan, home too. Lily and Mr. Ghost are plotting to pounce on you. Welcome back. When she arrived at the park the following morning, Ethan was already there, kneeling beside Lily as she attempted to build a leaf and stick castle taller than her. Look who's back, Lily exclaimed, racing toward her. Brooke scooped her up. Hey, you little architect. Did you miss me? Daddy says I did, Lily said, hugging her tightly. And Mr. Ghost? Brooke asked, looking for her furry companion. Nostradamus padded over gracefully, tail high, as if declaring, she survived. I approve. Ethan looked at her with a soft smile. You handled it well. Brooke sighed, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I did, but it's exhausting. I almost forgot why I was doing all of this. He reached out, brushing a finger lightly against her hand. And now, she blinked, meeting his gaze. Now I'm remembering, and I don't want to lose this, whatever this is, again. He smiled gently. Then don't. We'll figure it out. Together. Nostradamus meowed softly, as if to seal the agreement. Brooke laughed, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. For the first time, she realized she could have both, her career and this burgeoning connection with Ethan and Lily. It wouldn't be easy, but it was worth it. And for the first time in a long while, Brooke Tinsley allowed herself to hope, not just for success, but for love. Chapter 12, The First Real Date. Brooke Tinsley had planned many things in her life, business strategies, presentations, even perfectly color-coded spreadsheets for her apartment's organization. A first real date with Ethan, however, was not one of them. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the hem of a simple yet elegant dress, and glancing at herself with a mixture of excitement and mild terror. "Brooke," Nostradamus said from the edge of the dresser, tail flicking, "you look ridiculous." She rolled her eyes. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." He blinked, unimpressed. "I vote you don't trip over your own nerves." She laughed softly, stroking him. "Noted. You're a very helpful cat." Ethan arrived precisely on time as usual, with Lily skipping at his side, hand tucked in his. "Miss Brooke," Lily exclaimed, bouncing like a small sunbeam. "Daddy says it's a special night." Brooke knelt down to hug her. "It is special. And you're coming too, right?" Lily nodded vigorously. "Of course. I'm your tiny date helper." Ethan smiled, sliding his arm around Brooke's waist lightly. "Ready as I'll ever be," she said. Nostradamus, for his part, had decided he was too dignified to attend, perching instead on the windowsill with a look that clearly said, "I'll judge you later." Their destination was a quaint little bistro tucked away on a quiet street in Maplewood. Small lanterns lit the outdoor tables, and the soft hum of jazz floated in the air. Lily had decided early on that she would eat first, finishing her pasta with barely a glance at Brooke and Ethan, who were caught in a tentative, slightly nervous dance of conversation. "So," Ethan said, leaning back slightly, "this is our first grown-up dinner together." Brooke laughed softly. "Don't let Lily hear you call it that. She'll insist we eat on the floor with paper napkins." "She might prefer it," he said with a grin. Brooke's chest warmed. Even his joking felt intimate somehow, like a secret language she was just beginning to understand. Over the next hour, conversation flowed with surprising ease. They talked about trivial things, the best way to make pasta, the absurdity of squirrels in the park, then segued into more personal topics. "Do you ever regret not settling down sooner?" Brooke asked softly, stirring her wine absent-mindedly. Ethan considered it. "Sometimes. But then I think about how much I've learned, and how it led me here. To this moment." Brooke's heart skipped. "This moment?" "Yes," he said simply. "Sitting across from you, talking, watching Lily laugh, and knowing I want more." Her breath caught. "You really mean that?" "I do," he said. "And I don't want to rush, but I also don't want to wait forever. Life's too short for second-guessing." Brooke nodded slowly, the tight coil of anxiety in her chest loosening just a bit. Lily, who had grown restless after devouring dessert, tugged at their hands. "Can we go for a walk? Please?" Brooke laughed. "Of course. Mr. Ghost might disapprove, but I'll risk it." Outside, they strolled through the quiet streets, Lily skipping ahead and twirling, leaving Brooke and Ethan side by side. "Do you ever think about what it would be like?" Brooke asked tentatively. "About what?" "About family. Life beyond work and deadlines. A home filled with laughter and chaos." Ethan's hand brushed hers. She didn't pull away. "I think about it a lot," he admitted. "Especially with her around." He gestured toward Lily, who was now chasing a firefly and squealing. "She makes it possible to imagine a life I wouldn't have dared before." Brooke's heart ached with warmth. She had always wanted this. Someone to share her life with, someone who saw her whole, not just the parts that amplified their lives. And now, here he was. As they passed a small park, Lily ran ahead to feed ducks in the pond. Brooke lingered behind, letting Ethan fall naturally into step beside her. "You know," she said softly, "I've spent years thinking I had to choose, love or career, happiness or success. And I thought I'd have to be alone to keep what I built." He looked at her, his expression gentle but intense. "And now, I'm not sure anymore. I want both. I want this. I want you and Lily and a chance to see what life can be." His eyes softened, and he reached for her hand, holding it gently. "Then we'll make it work. No games. No pretending. Just trying together." Brooke's chest tightened, but this time in a way that wasn't fear. It was hope, possibility, joy. "I'd like that," she whispered. Lily returned, holding a small duck feather triumphantly. "Look what I found. Daddy says it's magical." Brooke laughed. "Perfect. We can start our magical life with duck feathers." Ethan chuckled. "Magical life with feathers. Got it." They walked back to the bistro for a final nightcap of hot chocolate, Lily's insistence, and shared quiet conversation beneath the lanterns, Nostradamus somehow in Brooke's mind judging everything they did from afar. "Brooke," Ethan said quietly, leaning closer, "I don't want to wait anymore. Not for this, not for us." Her heart thumped loudly, and for once, she let herself fully feel it. The courage, the longing, the undeniable pull. "I don't either," she admitted. And then, in the quiet warmth of the night, with Lily giggling over a chocolate-streaked marshmallow, Brooke finally allowed herself to lean into it. Into him, into the possibility, into the love she had feared was lost forever. Ethan's hand found hers again, this time with no hesitation, and Brooke didn't pull away. She looked down at Nostradamus in her mind's eye, imagining him perched on the sill, tail flicking in approval. You approve, don't you? She whispered, and in her heart, she knew he did. For the first time, Brooke Tinsley believed she could have everything she wanted. Her career, her independence, her sanctuary, and a family she loved fiercely, with a man who saw her, truly saw her. The world felt wider, softer, and infinitely brighter. And as Ethan leaned closer, brushing his forehead against hers, Brooke knew she would never take this kind of magic for granted again. Chapter 13 Happily Ever After with cat approval. Brooke Tinsley had never imagined her life would look like this. And yet, here she was, kneeling on the floor of her now slightly chaotic apartment, one hand holding a freshly folded pile of laundry, the other scratching Nostradamus behind the ears while Lily chattered away about an imaginary kingdom where cats ruled the world. Miss Brooke, Daddy says Mr. Ghost is the king, Lily announced triumphantly, holding up a stick like a scepter. Nostradamus, sprawled on the sofa like the emperor he clearly believed himself to be, flicked his tail once in acknowledgement. Of course he is, Brooke said, laughing. All hail King Ghost. Ethan appeared in the doorway, holding a mug of coffee and a mischievous grin. I heard there's royal business in progress. Lily twirled, sending her stick into the air dramatically. The king commands obedience. Brooke shook her head, smiling. You two are impossible. Ethan stepped into the room, dropping a gentle kiss onto Brooke's temple. Impossible together, he said softly. Brooke's heart skipped. Yeah, she whispered. I think that's true. It hadn't always been this easy. She remembered the long nights at the office, the endless client calls, the moments she had almost convinced herself that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. But life, as it turned out, had a way of surprising her. Lily's laughter filled the apartment as she coaxed Nostradamus to play along with her imaginary court. Brooke watched, a quiet warmth spreading through her chest. She had always wanted this. Family, love, and a little chaos thrown in for good measure. You know, Ethan said, settling on the sofa beside her, I never thought I'd have this. A home that's alive with laughter and organized chaos. Brooke leaned into him. Me neither. And yet, it feels right. More than anything else ever has. He kissed her forehead gently. Then we'll keep it this way. Together. Later that afternoon, Brooke found herself in the kitchen, attempting to bake cookies with Lily perched on the counter, supervising every move with the seriousness of a judge. 2 cups of flour, Miss Brooke, Lily instructed, pointing at the measuring cup. Brooke complied. 2 cups. Got it. And don't forget the chocolate chips. Daddy says chocolate makes everything better. Good advice, Brooke said with a grin. Chocolate it is. Ethan leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. You two make a pretty good team, he said softly. Brooke glanced at him, a mischievous sparkle in her eye. Do we? Or are we setting a dangerous precedent for sugar-fueled chaos? He chuckled. Either way, I approve. By evening, the cookies were baking, the apartment smelled like sweet vanilla and chocolate, and Nostradamus had claimed the kitchen rug as his royal throne. Brooke watched him, amused. You've really settled in, she said softly to the cat, who blinked slowly in reply. He purred, as if confirming that he had indeed approved this new arrangement. Dinner that night was a mixture of pizza, laughter, and Lily telling long, exaggerated stories about her royal adventures. Brooke and Ethan exchanged amused glances, both quietly grateful for the warmth and joy in the room. Later, after Lily had been tucked into bed with a gentle kiss and a bedtime story, Brooke and Ethan found themselves alone on the balcony, overlooking the city lights. I still can't believe this, Brooke said, leaning against him. That somehow all the chaos and deadlines and bad timing led me here, to this. Ethan pulled her close. I know, it's crazy how life works sometimes, but I'm glad it did. I don't want to imagine a life without you, or Lily, or even Mr. Ghost's approval. Brooke laughed softly. He's a strict judge, you know. I can only hope I passed today. You passed, he said confidently, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. With flying colors. Weeks turned into months. Brooke navigated her career with the same precision and brilliance she always had. But now, there was something different. She came home not to an empty apartment, but to laughter, warmth, and love waiting for her. Nostradamus supervised the household with quiet dignity, Lily's energy filling every corner, and Ethan's presence grounding her in ways she hadn't known she needed. One Saturday morning, as Brooke brewed coffee, Nostradamus perched on the counter, tail flicking, and Lily chattered about a new park adventure. Miss Brooke, Daddy says we can have a picnic today, Lily exclaimed. Brooke smiled, slipping her hand into Ethan's as he joined them in the kitchen. Sounds perfect. And Mr. Ghost? Ethan asked, looking at the cat. Nostradamus blinked slowly, then meandered to the window, tail high, clearly signaling that he approved. Then it's settled, Brooke said softly. Picnic with the whole family. Chaos included. Ethan pulled her into a hug. I wouldn't have it any other way. Brooke rested her head against his chest, listening to the gentle rhythm of his heartbeat and the hum of their small, happy chaos. For the first time in a long time, she felt completely and utterly at peace. Later, at the park, Nostradamus strutted across the grass with the confidence only a self-appointed guardian could possess. Lily skipping beside him and Brooke walking hand in hand with Ethan. "Miss Brooke," Lily said, pausing to watch a particularly daring squirrel. "This is the best family ever." Brooke smiled down at her, heart full. "It sure is, kiddo. It sure is." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "And it's just the beginning." Brooke looked at him, at Lily, at Nostradamus, and for the first time, allowed herself to imagine the life she had always hoped for, full of love, laughter, and the occasional perfectly timed cat judgment. "Yeah," she said softly. "The beginning." Nostradamus purred, tail flicking, as if to punctuate the sentiment, and Brooke, finally, allowed herself to believe in happily ever after.